Okay, so here let's look at the top 3 Michael Jordan fallacies. Now, this isn't to hate on anything or have any sort of negative view, but it's just to debunk fallacies that aren't necessary. You can believe he's the GOAT, you can say he's the GOAT, but it doesn't have to go this far where you just kind of say nonsense historical things that aren't even accurate. So you hear this from a lot of talking heads like on ESPN and stuff over the years, sports commentators and stuff. So number one is he never allowed a game 7 in the NBA finals, right? In all of his 6 titles that he won. But the problem with that is on the way to those same titles, he went to game 7 against the Knicks one of those years, right? The same year that he won the title. So you're telling me he didn't allow the finals to go to game 7 that year, right? He's just that great. He doesn't allow a game 7. It would make more sense if he never played a game 7 period in his career, or at least in those runs. But no, he plays game 7 against the Knicks, which is an inferior team in his conference right before he gets to the finals that same year. And then he doesn't allow a game 7 though in the finals, right? So in other words, it's not like it wasn't up to him, and despite his greatness, he wouldn't be able to stop that. It doesn't matter because he won anyway. But this notion, he never allowed a game 7 in the finals. Well, then why did he allow it against the Knicks? Why did he allow it against the Pacers? Those same years that he won the title, on the way to winning the same title, right? So it makes no sense. And even against Portland is especially noteworthy. He's in game 6 against Portland, right? Up 3-2, but they're about to force a game 7 and they're blowing the Bulls out. And Phil Jackson gets mad and puts everybody, including Jordan, on the bench. And then they come back without him in the game. And then he closes the deal, obviously, at the end. But it's like he was getting blown out and they're about to go to a game 7 and the bench kind of saves them. So it's like, how does that make sense? Because he was about to allow a game 7, right? He was on the bench getting blown out in a game 6, right? Waiting for the game 7. So this notion of, he didn't allow it, like it's within his control, is stupid, right? It doesn't really matter. It's a meaningless stat. He could allow all of them to go to game 7 as long as he wins. Who cares, right? But it's this fallacy of, again, just it's not within his control, despite how great he is. You can't just magically do that. Why would he allow a game 7 then in earlier rounds against arguably inferior opponents to the ones he's facing in the finals to go to game 7? Again, the Knicks and the Pacers, but yet he wouldn't allow game 7 in the finals. So the second fallacy is the fact that, he would have won 8 straight, which is very unlikely the Bulls, right, if he didn't retire. First of all, he did retire, so I hate when people use that as a pass or an excuse, right? Like, it would be the equivalent of somebody getting injured and missing 2 years, or having 2 off years where they might have just not won a title when you expected them to. But it's like he chose to retire, that's fine. But now he comes back and he loses to the Magic, and people say, well, he was rusty or something, but he played very well still. But they just lost. And then the next year you might say, now he was in form. That it was just because of the rust, but it actually wasn't. They get another Hall of Famer, Dennis Rodman, the next year, and now they win. So it's like it wasn't as simple as just him coming back and being in good form. But the reality is that would you have won 8 straight? Probably not. Maybe somebody gets injured. Maybe Pippen's hurt and you can't win because of that. Maybe Jordan gets hurt. Maybe there's burnout. Maybe there's fatigue. Maybe there's some drama, toxicity, like some of what we saw after the second three-peat where they're trying to fire Phil Jackson and, the management is having issues. So this notion that it would have been perfect and you would have won 8 straight, not only would you not have won 8 straight, you might not have even won the 6 because who knows what would have happened, right? That break actually kind of helped. They gave everybody time off. I mean, it gave Jordan time off, some rest in a form, even though he was playing baseball, that might have helped prevent injuries, that might have elongated his prime. It's the fact that you also would have decided to let Pippen kind of grow and develop his game even more without you, let some of those other players improve. So the likelihood that you would have won 8 straight is pretty much 0%. There would have been potentially injuries. There would have been potentially, again, some burnout, maybe just an off year, maybe some other problem, right? It's just not that simple. And again, that's fine. It's just people embellish these things. Like he chose to retire, so he didn't win 8 straight. So that's it. It's a meaningless thing to say. And then even when he came back, he lost to the Magic, however you want to discount it. And then the third one is that the organization doesn't matter or was somehow a thorn in his side or got in his way. Not only was it not that, it deserves a lot of credit because, again, you can talk about, Jordan's so great, that's why you won, but it's not that simple. Jordan was great in the 80s. He put up great numbers in the 80s. Larry Bird calling him God and, having 63 against Boston and all these kind of crazy moments, right? Even upsetting teams and giving the Pistons a scare. It's like, he could be great, but you would still lose. So what's the difference in the 90s? I hate when people say this too, that, he learned how to trust his teammates. No, he didn't. In the 93 finals, he averaged 41 a game, and the Bulls were averaging like 90 points or something, right? Some of those games were at least lower scoring. So your team has 90 points, and you have 40. You're averaging 41 a game. It's like, so you're averaging almost half your team's offensive output And yet you're saying, oh, he's trusting his teammates. Like, no, he played the same way. It's just that the team was better. So give the Bulls more credit for building that. And the best example of why this is relevant is because Jordan, even in his Hall of Fame speech, is a little bit testy about that and petty. He says, I didn't see organization playing with the flu in Utah. I didn't see them playing with a bad ankle, right? He's trying to undercut that. But the reality is that, again, you could be great and never win if you have a bad organization, or you could be not so great and win because you have a great organization. So it's not that simple, right? And so we can't derive greatness just from the result. But the reality is that we saw Jordan as an owner and an executive and saw how bad of a job he did. So now you understand that you should be grateful for it. It's not that easy that, oh, he's just great and you just win. No, like he's such a terrible owner and GM himself in his experience that it shows you he should be a little more grateful, and we should realize how important of a dynamic that is.